every state was a border state. And now we're getting things cleaned up. As soon as the federal Supreme Court gets its head right and allows the executive to be able to do executive things in protecting the American people, we're going to be in an even better spot. But this is really good stuff that has happened here where the border security, and all you got to do is talk to, Border Patrol agents. From everything I've understand, that morale has not been higher in years. That they're just, and I got to believe that the people working for ICE that were out there over the last 4 years and they could not do their job because Alejandro Mayorkas would not stand behind them. I suspect morale is good amongst them also, that they're able finally to do their job, which is to protect the American people, and they get to do it now. That's a great thing.
Oh, it certainly is. I can tell you from what I've heard as well, morale is through the roof. I mean, I live down here in Southern California to see nothing except high-speed chases going on in and around where I live over the course of the previous 4 years. And now we've got military helicopters collaborating with other agency helicopters, and then the border security helicopters. We've got Ospreys flying around, and even F-18s on the weekend down by the U.S. southern border as a show of force. There's just a lot of stuff going on down here, which says that we mean business, and we know when it comes to border security, President Trump sure does. But it doesn't mean that the left isn't going to try and continue to figure out other ways to, like you had led in with, take the damage that's already been done and run with it after Joe Biden kind of left it for him. Without having to win the speaker gavel or the majority in the Senate, even have the man who sits behind the resolute desk, the Democrats have figured out that if they could find an activist judge somewhere in the United States who had lobbied for a bench and now carries out their policies via the gavel, they could stymie a president's entire mandate that America sent him back up to Washington, D.C. to govern with the stroke of a pen. I know Congress is working on a lot of different avenues to kind of tackle this. President Trump, obviously, through the appellate process, and eventually the Supreme Court will be doing the same as well. But I mean, you guys got a little taste of it in Wisconsin recently with a judge who was just, her heart was compelled by a domestic violencer and needed to stop him from being removed from this country even after he had committed some heinous crimes. So, Congressman, the question I'm asking now, two-pronged. How's Congress going to look to continue to tackle this moving forward? And then in the instance of what happened in your state, why is it time to start putting the clamps on these radical activist judges when they actually break the law?
Yeah, so I mean, you could see what the left is trying to do here. They got the 10 million in here illegally over the last 4 years, 10 million plus. Now they want to cement and keep them here because it is ultimately about voters, right? They want these people to get voting rights at some point because they're losing the American people. They have to have people that come from foreign countries to be able to come in and vote for them in order for them to be able to win elections. Otherwise, they're simply not going to win elections. And remember, a few years ago, I mean, it was a decade ago, Texas is going to be a blue state within a decade. Well, here we are a decade later, and those working class people that came in legally into Texas, they're saying, no, that's not what I signed up for. That's not why I came to America. I want to have safe streets just like Americans. I want to have border security. So all that is happening. So specifically in regards to the judge in Wisconsin, it's clear she was obstructing justice.
Sure.
When she spirits this violent illegal alien, out the side door of her courtroom, and now she's going to pay the consequences because she has been arrested. And even our state Supreme Court, our leftist Supreme Court, has not seen themselves to be a willing accomplice in all of this, and they're saying that you need to give up your cases. They're going to continue to pay her, which I don't think they should do. But nonetheless,
Agreed.
They've relieved her. The state Supreme Court has relieved her of her duties because she wasn't doing them. I mean, think about it. I spoke with Attorney General Bondi the other night, and I thought she made a really good point in regards to this case. She said, this case was brought by state and local officials. State and local law enforcement, as well as FBI officials who are headquartered in Wisconsin. This isn't like the Department of Justice came from Washington, D.C., swooped down in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and arrested this guy. That's not what happened at all. This was local efforts that brought this to this Judge Dugan's court, and she ignored the will of the people, and now she's going to pay for price for it. And I'm hoping that this stops judges around the country from doing this kind of foolishness.
Oh, it certainly does. And then as you guys look at to take on this issue, do you think maybe defunding? Do you think Congress looking to pass legislation that limits the scope outside of not nationally, maybe just the particular case that they're looking at, or the people that are bringing that case to them, as has been talked about in the media, and has come from some of the leadership within the Republican conference as well, moving forward?
Yes, no doubt about it. We just passed a bill a few weeks ago in regards to that, that does exactly like you said. It narrows down so that there cannot be these nationwide injunctions. It just affects the case that is before that court. I thought that was a really good bill that we did. That's on to the Senate. We will see what happens in the Senate. And but we should also be looking at funding in the appropriations process. If there's courts that are defying the law, then perhaps they should not be funded.
Sure. No, I completely agree with you. We can't have Article 3 trying to bully Article 2, especially in regards to the President of the United States every single time the radical left doesn't agree with the policies of the person that, won the election through the Democrat process as well. Congressman, on the heels of the Liberation Day and moving forward from that, I think President Trump has done an amazing job of re-leveling the playing field when it comes to geopolitical trade here. He's also been able to put China kind of out on an island to expose them for what they are, the master manipulators of trade, where it goes, what it's made of, IP theft, currency manipulation, you name it. Since they've been allowed into the WTO, they've been definitely guilty of it. And the way President Trump is starting to work out these deals where they're going to start working for both parties involved, not just necessarily the United States, but, in a more collaborative effort with our allies around the globe, we cannot have such a huge trade deficit every year like the federal spending, the national debt, the budget deficit, et cetera. This is just another component of unsustainability moving forward that our country kind of has to rework out. A lot of people said the market was going to tank. A lot of people in the media and from the left try to confuse Americans by tying like the economy and the stock market together when they are two completely different things. Stock market could have a bad day, but inflation and prices could be down like they are since President Trump came back to office as well. But now it seems like it's kind of leveled out. And as some of our allies and people that we have historically traded with are coming with new trade deals, and I feel like the relationship probably that President Trump does have with Xi Jinping moving forward will work something out that is okay for both parties moving forward. This kind of seems like just another component of the art of the deal where everybody said this is going to be an absolute disaster, an unmitigated nightmare, and it turned out to be like, okay, we ripped the Band-Aid off and everybody freaked out for a couple days, and now it's just back to business as usual.
Yeah, for sure. What did it start out on January 20th? The price of eggs are too high. Where is that now? It's long gone. I mean, the left just keeps hurling stuff. But you have a president that says, I stand with Main Street and working class people before Wall Street. I mean, that's basically what he is saying. Now, I want Wall Street to do well. I hope they do well.
Sure.
But by God, main streets have been hollowed out around the United States of America, including in my district. And it's largely because you've seen those manufacturers that have they lost their business overseas, and they lost it sometimes through intellectual theft of property.
Yep.
They lost it as a result of slave wages that were being paid in places like China. And that's not how it should work. So the reset is happening. And I believe that you're going to see industry and jobs come back to America. There are two things that I'm saying to the White House, though, that are really important. They need to continue on the regulatory reform part of it. Because if it takes 5 to 10 years to get a permit, they're not going to build factories
Right.
and mills here in America. And the White House is doing a terrific job on that front. We need to do some work in Congress on that front also, so that so that the permitting process aren't so long. The other thing is we need work requirements. 5 to 10 million people sitting on the sidelines that are able-bodied, they should be working rather than accepting benefits from the American taxpayer. We do those two things with the new trade deals that we're going to get, and I think you're going to see a rebuilding of American manufacturing capability, and that we make things and that make things once again. I'll make one other point. You perhaps saw a couple of weeks ago I dropped the WTO bill